What's happening, my friends? I hope this finds you well. I'm really excited to start this series. This artwork that you see around me, it's been sitting in my Canva for about 4 to 5 months. I've been wanting to create this series on the art of leadership for some time, and now my calendar has a bit of a clearing that I can do that, and I'm so excited. So I'm hoping to bring several weeks, several episodes on the art of leadership, because I think there's so much fertile ground there for us to explore, and there's so many actually what I think are wrong interpretations, some misguided ideas, some misunderstandings about what true and good leadership looks like. So I'd love to bring to you my flavor, my philosophies on leadership. And so I think the best way to start is to answer the question, really, what is leadership? What is this thing that we call leadership? And I want to start by kind of saying what it's not. First off, leadership is not a title. It's not CEO, it's not C-suite, it's not senior vice president. I have met and encountered many C-suite folks who kind of suck as leaders. That's not necessarily leadership, although that's a great place to exercise good leadership. Just because you have that C, those 3 initials or 4 initials in front of your name or after your name, does not mean you're qualified or are a good leader. Leadership is not a personality trait. Oftentimes we think he or she or they are very strong and charismatic, and therefore they're good leaders, going back to winning friends and influencing people. That's great. That is a flavor of leadership, or that within it holds the capacity to lead. But I submit that that's not in itself leadership, especially as I define it and how I work on it with my clients. Leadership has nothing to do with hierarchy, right? The C-suite on down. I know really good leaders who are at the bottom of the hierarchy. And in fact, leadership doesn't necessarily need to happen within a hierarchy. Leadership are ways in which we interact with people and bring them up, hold them up, help them grow. That's leadership. So it has nothing to do with a hierarchy. And lastly, I'm sure there's many more out of this, but these are the notes that I've taken. Leadership is not management. And that is one area where the wires get crossed a lot. Management can be taught. There's a playbook for management. I submit leadership can't really. Leadership needs to be developed. Management is, making sure that employee X gets the job done within these parameters on time to this quality over and over and over again. Let's manage the budget. Let's manage the people. Management is different than leadership. They're distinct. They're not the same. Although that's what happens a lot in our modern day organizations is people get promoted into leadership capable, let's call them leadership capable positions, yet they don't really take on the role as leader. They manage, micromanage, macromanage. They just manage. And they're missing great opportunities for leadership. And so that leads us to, what is leadership? Peter Drucker actually has a great quote that I think really sums it up nicely. I'll read it through once. Hopefully I won't paraphrase. Leadership is lifting a person's vision to higher heights, raising that person's performance to higher standards, and building that person's personality. I usually substitute being. That's the word that I use there. Building a person's being beyond his or her or their normal limitations. You could see very different than management, right? Helping a person raise their gaze to see more possibility, to higher sights. Helping a person build the capacity to execute to a higher standard, beyond their normal today, right in this moment limitations. And most importantly, leadership, I think, is helping a person build their being, build their capacity beyond the limitations that they have within this box that is self right now. And so that's the work that I take on for myself, developing myself as leader, with my clients and in the organizations that I work with. Leadership is very powerful and potent. When I develop my leadership, and with those in my sphere, I help them develop their leadership to become more powerful, potent leaders. You see where a rising tide raises all boats. And then that's where transformation happens, and exponential growth is then possible. Oftentimes what happens now is we try and develop leaders within, not beyond, within their current and normal limitations. And so what we're doing there is, while we can get progress, while we can make positive change, we're actually just optimizing what the output and capacity of that leader is capable of, rather than helping them transform and grow their being to have more and more capacity to be leader. When that happens, it doesn't matter what comes. Crisis management, you name it. You throw in an issue, that person then has the EQ, the IQ is there, the EQ and the positive intelligence and the capacity to handle whatever comes, because they've done that work on themselves. It's very important that leaders, before they even jump to develop leadership in others, they do that work within themselves. And so I think that is a good working definition for us to start with this conversation of leadership. I will put in the comments Peter Drucker's quote, and I invite you, let me know your thoughts and questions on this. Leadership is widely discussed. There's a lot of different ideas, thoughts, and philosophies out there. This happens to be my starting point. I'd love to know yours. Let me know what your questions are. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? And let's get into conversation, because conversations around leadership are my jam. It's what I love. Before we go, I do want to make a quick little plug. I have one iteration of Accomplishment Mastermind. We started about 4 or 5 months ago. It's going amazing. Right now there's 5 entrepreneurs, all of which are female from various demographics. And it's going amazing. These women are growing personally, they're growing in their leadership, and their businesses are growing. I'm hoping to, in the coming days and weeks, share some success stories, share some case studies. But if something like that would be interesting for you, to join a group of folks on a journey to support each other and to grow together in life, leadership, and in all pursuits, hit me up. I'd love to get in conversation and chat with you about it. It's a really powerful group. We're going to start iteration 2 in the fall, probably October, early November. Or if this resonates with you and leadership is something you really want to dive into and develop your folks, hit me up. Let's get into a conversation. Let me see how I can support you. No sales pitch. That's not how I roll. I just love getting into conversations around these topics. That's all we got today. For those of you that stuck around to this point, I'm so grateful. Next week, we're going to talk about personal leadership. Personal leadership is the foundation of all leadership. We can't develop in others what is not yet developed in ourselves. So it starts here. It starts with us. So keep an eye out for that. And until then, wishing you all the best, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.